Hey guys, it's Peter Newell. I'm just carrying on where I left off from that last tutorial. The last thing I did was insert a table into this workbook, into the table, and I put a formula in column G, and as I entered the formula, it pre-populated the whole column. Now I want to move quickly on to Vlookups, where in this particular table, we've just got the employee number here, but we want to find from another list who the salesperson actually is. So who employee number 104, 107, 102 is. And what I've got in the second tab at the bottom of my worksheet, which you probably can't see, is an employee list. So I'm just going to go across to that tab and show you what it looks like. So it's quite simple. It's got the employee number, which is the same as the employee numbers that we're looking at here. And it's quite important that this employee number is in the first column of the data that we're looking at. So we want to be able to find, for example, employee number 104 from this list, and we want it to return the name Invisible Woman in the salesperson column. So to do that, again, I find it easiest to insert a table just to give some structure to this data and to give it a name. So it is now table 2, which is important when we do the VLOOKUP. I could have highlighted the whole area that we wanted the VLOOKUP to use, but now that it's got a name, we just need to refer to table 2, and it knows that it's everything inside here that we're referring to, which is table 2. So I think you'll see what I mean when I start with the formula. So salesperson, right, so what we're doing is we're going to enter equals VLOOKUP, and it actually tells you what to do as you start typing. It's not that straightforward, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. So what is it that we're looking up? We're looking up the employee number, and where are we looking it up? The table array is the range of data that we want to look at, and remember it's already been named. It's called table 2. So that's, as I start typing there, it comes up table 2, and I can actually choose it from that list. We could have renamed it, which would have probably made it easier, but table 2 is quite easy to remember. Table 2. Now column index. That is quite important. So I'm just going to go back to the employee list. That column index refers to these columns. So this is essentially column 1. This is column 2, column 3. In fact, let's do this at the top here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So these are the column indexes when you're doing a VLOOKUP. Let's just put them in the middle here. So what we want initially is for it to return the value in column 2. So let's do that again. Equals VLOOKUP. Whoops. Let's try looking up that value in table 2, and we're looking for column 2. And then the last thing is, do you want to find an exact match or an approximate match? So if it can't find 104, do you want it to look for the next number on the list? We don't want that. We want it to be an exact match. Only when it finds number 104 must it return that value from column 2. So you can either click on this or you can type the word false and then close your brackets and enter. And then automatically, because it's in a table, it knows that it must apply the same formula to the whole column. So that's the salesperson. Then real name is referring to here, column index 3. So we can do the same thing. You can go equals VLOOKUP. What is it we're looking up? We're looking up the employee number. Where are we looking it up? In table 2. What column must it return? column 3, and again it must be an exact match. And let's do that again. Equals Vlookup, employee number, table 2. Now this was, I can't remember, I think it was 3. False, sorry, it was 4. 4, false. And then lastly, gender was 5, yeah. Vlookup, we're looking up the employee number from this list. We're looking at it up in another list, which is called table 2. We're looking up column 5, and it must be an exact match. There we are. So now with these filters, we can just filter by male or female. Or we could filter by male and DC. And clear filter. Okay, now we can move on to this if function. So what I'm saying here is we need to put a yes or a no if the sales quantity, which is this value here in column B, is over 10. Then it must say yes, otherwise it must say no. So let's do this. So the if function works like this, equals if this particular value here is greater than 10, then it must return the letter Y. If I just put a Y in, it won't work. I've got to put it in inverted commas. And so now that's saying if the quantity sold is greater than 10, then it must return the letter Y as text. Otherwise, it must return an N. So now we can see here all of these N's are for quantities 10 and under, because this is sales quantity over 10. And then we can use this if function again to calculate the sales just from the Marvel people. So here's Marvel or DC. So what I want to do here is go equals if the division equals Marvel. Then I actually want to put the sales value from Marvel in here. So we can just go across to the sales value. You see now if it's not Marvel, it's defaulting to false. So what I'd rather have is if it's not Marvel, it must rather be a 0. So if you put a comma 0 at the end, then it gives you the sales values from Marvel. And then from DC equals if division equals DC, then sales value. If it doesn't equal DC, then I want it to show the number 0 and enter. Oops, it doesn't show that. There we go. And then obviously we can just format these quickly as currency rand with 2 decimal places. That's fine. Okay. Now, what I like to do is actually put the totals at the top of these tables. You can put it at the bottom and insert it into the actual table itself, but I find that some of these tables get very big, and then to find the total you've got to scroll right down to the bottom. Also, if you've got the totals at the top, it's a lot easier to keep adding data to this table, and it doesn't mess with your totals. So most of you know the sum function, but the problem with the sum function, which I'll show you now, is if you go equals sum and you choose the range that you wanted to sum, and you use your filters, so let's just choose DC, this value doesn't change because the sum includes all of the hidden values as well. So there is another formula you can use, which is a lot better when you're using filtered data. It's called subtotal. And subtotal, as you open the brackets, gives you different options. So you can have the average of the range you want to look at, the count of numbers that you want to look at, the count which is counting text values, max, min value, some others, but what we want is the sum. So that's number 9. So you can either click on this 9, or you can type in number 9, and then you go comma, you choose the range that you want to look at, close brackets. Now how that works is if I choose DC, it'll automatically adjust to just these values here, which adds up to 5,000, or just Marvel. And you can go and drag that value across as well, and it does the same thing.